Okay, everybody, thanks for listening today. I'm really excited to have Van Nalentha on the phone. Van is in Raleigh, North Carolina, and he owns Bitamanda with his sister, and they opened in 2012. And I have not been there, but I have heard from everybody I know that knows anything about good restaurants in Raleigh that they're doing amazing work there. And so, Van, thank you for doing this. You have a phenomenal reputation, so I can't wait to talk to you and learn what's going on, why you guys are having so much success. Man, thank you for taking the time to do this today.
Of course, glad to be here.
So you opened in 2012, right?
Yes, we opened on September 1st of 2012, so a little bit over two and a half years ago.
Okay, and am I right? Is it you and your sister that opened it, or are there more folks involved?
No, just Vanvisa and I. We never really intended to open a restaurant. I went to NC State and did design and chemistry, and I had a graduate studies in international peace and conflict studies from Trinity in Dublin, and never thought that we would be in the food industry. But it's amazing how the life journey takes.
Well, how did that happen? I mean, I know I read on your website that, like, I guess the term Bitamanda is Sanskrit ceremonial term for father and mother, and I think it mentions on there that you and your sister named it to sort of honor your parents, who kind of instilled, like, just a love of food and what food can do to bring people together. Is that? I mean, tell me about that. That's a really cool backstory.
It is an interesting journey. Yeah, after Trinity, I came back to the States. I came back to Raleigh, actually, just to say goodbye and, to friends and mentor, because Raleigh is such an important place for me. I left Laos when I was 12 years old, came to North Carolina, and Raleigh, the community here, really has become my family. I came to the States with my sister and our whole family still living in Laos. So after Trinity, I came back to Raleigh, and I was really just looking for jobs in international peace and conflict studies, in community building in general. And it was right around the recession time, so I applied to about 300 jobs. And it was probably, the hardest, the most difficult year of my life, and just got zero job offer. So Vanvisa and I took a summer off that year and went to Laos and spent that summer with mom and dad, and just really reconnected with our roots. And we left home at such a young age, so it was easy to assume that Laos was a long distant past. But what we realize, that I think the older we become, is that we are a direct product of that community. And now looking back, food has always been so centered to my life, and especially when Visa joined me in the States. I was 12 years old and she was 9. We lived with a family in Greensboro. And for me, the only way to make sure that her memories of home, of Laos, of mom and dad were preserved as a small 9-year-old child was, for me to cook for her, because as we can't just go to a Laotian restaurant. We can't just go to a Laotian temple, or there's no Laotian community center anywhere. So knowing all of that, I knew I had to do something to make sure that she remembers home, and food was the most direct and most meaningful tool that I had. And I always cooked growing up eating with mom and dad. I think as a culture in general, food is almost a sacred spiritual experience. So it was such a privilege and honor to be able to share that experience with Vanvisa, cooking growing up. So I think looking back now, it kind of makes sense that we are in this industry, but at the time of career choices, that was not the most obvious one.
Wow. So did you say that you applied to around 300 jobs?
Yeah, with all of those degrees and experiences, I got zero offer. It was everything from applying to the UN to applying to small NGOs working on educational empowerment in Guatemala. I got so desperate. I remember applying to work at CVS to be an assistant, a clerk assistant, and I didn't even get a job offer there. So it was a combination of different things. I think my resume can be perceived as a very distracted person, um, but it definitely led into a wonderful journey.
Okay, so you went from that to, so you apply for all these jobs, nothing sticks, not even the CVS. You go back home, spend the summer in Laos, and then you come back and then what? So now several years later, you've got like one of the best restaurants in Raleigh. So what? How did that? To keep your story going, this is fascinating.
Oh, well, I try to be sensitive to what it means to to have a best restaurant. I think we are definitely learning a lot, and I think that's the most fascinating for us is that what we do at Vitamanda really is just an extension of who we are, and our menu is nothing more than the dishes we remember eating growing up, the kind of dishes that I cook for my sister to make sure that she remembers home. So there's not, there really isn't. It's not a creative process. It's just a genuine offering from our family to our community here. So it has been a very empowering journey to see that what we do it's meaningful to the community, and the community celebrates our narrative and authenticity to our food. So thank you for saying that, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, sure. I mean, that's there is, as you say, a genuine offering, and you have a lot of authenticity. I mean, clearly, what you're doing resonates with the Raleigh community. So tell me, I mean, you came back. Did you, when you had the idea that you wanted to open a restaurant, like what? And so there's you and your sister. I mean, did you go and raise money, or did you have savings, or how did you? I mean, because it's an expensive thing to get started. How did you pull the trigger on that?
Well, the first step when we came back to Raleigh was I went to Barnes and Noble, and I bought a phenomenal book, and that's called Opening a Restaurant for Dummies. It really was that fundamental. We did not know anything. We did not know how we were going to look for space. We didn't know how we were going to look for funding. How are we going to find a chef? What is the legal complexity of it? We didn't know anything, so we really started from scratch. I remember coming back and just kind of being shocked about the kind of resources in the community that was lacking at the time. Of how do you open a restaurant? So we were fortunate at that time to have the kind of relationships in Raleigh that really allowed that to be a positive journey. I remember emailing Ashley Christensen and say, I would love to learn from you. Can you please mentor us? I remember reaching out to Chris Powers at Busy Bee and Trophy. I remember emailing Angela and say, this is my hopes and dreams and passion and heartbeats. I would love to learn as much as I could from you. And surprisingly, all of these successful, meaningful leaders in our community in the food world and say, yes, we are so excited that you're passionate about Laotian food and your family narrative and your love for people. Let's make sure this happens. And I think that seed, that positive seed, that supportive vibe and tone really change how we approach the process, because instead of it being a business journey, it really was about relationship building. So from not knowing anything about the industry, we were granted with so many relationships with people who know more. And I think the humility of saying I don't know and I would love to know more really opened a lot of opportunities and positive relationships in our lives, and that is something that we will forever treasure. So yeah, that's all how it all began. I was fortunate to have a very supportive and loving group of friends. So a lot of things we see at the restaurant, from the construction of the space to a lot of the legal helps to graphic design, were really donated and volunteered by our friends. We always use the image, the visual image of our sticks on the wall that were completely hand tied by our friends. We have about 50 of our friends in the space. We didn't have much funding, so I gave all of them a lot of Miller Lite, and we really just built the space together. So I think our guests really can see a lot of the passionate hands that were involved in the making of the space that are still important and meaningful to us today. It really is Viramanda is nothing but a reflection of what a tremendous, positive, loving community that we have here in Raleigh.
Dude, so this is phenomenal, folks. So as you listen here, and Van mentions names like Ashley Christensen and Chris Powers. Did you say somebody else as well?
Angela Salamanca, she owns Central, and she just recently opened Gallo Pelon, a First Mezcal. She's from Colombia, one of my closest friends now. She's probably one of my best friends now. And it all started with saying, I love what you do. Would love for you to be a part of this journey. Please train us. Please teach us all you know.
Okay, so this is so, folks, and Van, see, now you got help from these people, and now you're giving back, because people listening to this can learn that this is something that, these are some of the most well-known and successful restaurant people in Raleigh, and Van went to them with a authentic, heartfelt, story and request for help, and you'll find that so many of the best restaurant people, wherever you may be, I've really found this to be true over the years of interviewing a lot of people, is that they're humble people that want to help others in their community because they believe that, really that it's not just about them and their restaurant, it's about a successful community and sort of a rising tide lifts all boats type philosophy. So this is such a great piece of advice to go, if you don't know, Go find the folks that are successful in your community and ask them for help. They love to mentor people and give advice and help guide. So that's awesome, Dan, that you were able to do that. And then so you really didn't have a lot of funding, so you had lots of friends that helped your build out. And so another thing that a lot of people think, oh gosh, well, I don't have experience and I don't have any funding. I can't do a restaurant. Well, see, so what Van did is, kind of proves that thinking wrong. It's just a matter of, being creative with the way you go about it. So you guys, that's awesome, man. So you got it started in 2012. So it's been almost 3 years now since you opened your doors. I will tell you that Sean Degnan at Buku, when I interviewed him for this podcast series, he said, I won't quote directly, but he basically said, look, I asked him who does he like to learn from and who does he look to in the community in Raleigh to learn as he continues to grow in his career. And he said, the first thing he said was, well, first person I can think of is Van at Viramanda. And he said, Van and his sister provide the best hospitality that he said, I can't even believe how good the hospitality is there, and I feel like I'm at home every time I go, and I feel so welcome. And he said, I always look at that as a model for, hospitality. So with that, I mean, what are y'all doing there? How do you provide that kind of atmosphere consistently? Because that's not easy to do.
Yeah, it is definitely. I think you're absolutely right. I think the consistency is difficult, and especially intimate. Providing intimate, meaningful, personal experiences each and every time. I think it's very difficult in any restaurant. At Viramanda, for example, we serve more than 3,000 meals a week, and how do we create that kind of consistency? It's an ongoing challenge, but I think if an entire business plan or if an entire business functions under, if our goal wasn't to be wealthy, our goal wasn't to create the best restaurant in Raleigh, our goal was to make sure that we share our narrative, food, and culture with our community the best that we know how. I think that that authenticity to what you love and allow that to be the beginning of every decision-making process, I think it will always yield something that's organic and true. And I think hospitality is an interesting word because for us it really is us hosting and welcoming people into our home, and it doesn't get any simpler than that. I think food is such a basic life offering, and I think when we overcomplicate that experience, I think that's when it gets tricky. But for us, it really is about how do we continue sharing our story and welcoming our guests to our home and care for them like we were caring for our friends. It's what we do there is very basic, and that is our basic principle at a restaurant of hospitality is how do we care for someone, and that's what we do. We try to care for our friends and family and community.
Well, so let me ask you this to dive into that a little more. I mean, so that makes a ton of sense, and for you and your sister who have lived and experienced, this narrative, and who are from Laos, there is that authenticity. But then how are you able to find people on your staff that are able to also share that same passion and same goal to share your narrative and to provide that kind of experience that you and your sister would?
Absolutely. I think sourcing the right team is probably the most important ingredient in what we do. How do we create a team that's cohesive and creative and inspire and all together yield this experience? We spend a lot of time on the front end of the selection process. We put a lot of intentions and resource into that beginning phase of training and recruiting. It is so important to us that doesn't matter. We actually, in our job descriptions, that person doesn't even have to have service industry experience. What we are looking for is always someone who's capable of caring, someone who is genuinely passionate about life. And that doesn't have to be food. We have a lot of artists, we have a lot of makers in the world, we have yoga instructor, we have a lot of students who are waiting to go to medical school, we have last year law school students. So we are looking for people who are passionate in what they do, and in turns they bring that aliveness to what we do, and it adds a level of complexities and meaning to what they do. Intention is a big word in our training process, and intention is actually really hard to train if someone doesn't already carry that sense of pride in what they do. How do we make polishing glasses as a meaningful experience that's talking to a guest at a table? And what we have learned is that when we find someone that takes a lot of pride and meaning in what they do and love what they do, that translates directly to our guest experience. And we have such a phenomenal team and community at the restaurant that I'm so grateful for, and I think a lot of our success comes directly from that team. So developing and cultivating that team is very important to us. A good example is we take our annual staff retreat once or twice a year. We take 3-4 days off from the restaurant, and we spend some time somewhere else. The first year we went to Wilmington. First year we went to Wilmington. First year we went to Asheville, and last year we went to Wilmington. And just really allowing our team to go through a shared experience, setting intentions and goals, and holding each other accountable for each other's development. So what we are doing, I think, is we are just a community of people, a community of passionate people who are just absolutely in love with what we do and wanting to care for our guests.
So do you close the restaurant for a few days when you do this?
Yes, we do, and it's always few of the best days of the year, especially for back of house and front of house to coexist in one home. We usually rent a big home and just cook together. And last year we have Tim leading a yoga class, and we have Naitar doing massages. We share common readings and reflection times. I do my cooking class, and so I think it really is about being present and intentional together. And I think when you have that seed, I think it's really easy to develop at work, because restaurant is a extremely aggressive and intense environment. And so for us to go into a shift feeling like you are with your team and you are with your family, I think it helps with the operational piece.
Wow, man, that's really cool that you do that. I don't know that I know of anybody else. I mean, I'm sure there are other people that do, but I don't know anybody else that has told me they closed down for a few days to go build their team, which you said is the most important part of what you do. So that's really awesome. So you do that once or twice a year, you said?
Yes.
That's what a great thing to do. What a great thing to be a part of as a team member. I'm sure that's just, I would imagine that you have a lot of loyalty and just a really solid bond amongst your staff with, to be able to participate in something like that, which is so unique and so enriching. So very, very cool, man. And then so you're also, am I right that you and a friend are planning on opening a brewery, right, in downtown Raleigh? Is that right?
Yes, we have been working on it for a few months now. It's still in the making process. It's an interesting journey because we have been trying to be very mindful of the reason of why we would expand. So I'm trying to be intentional about that piece, and if we are going to have a second space, it has to feel right in relation to the first. But yes, we are. It should be happening soon, we hope.
Why a brewery?
That is an interesting question. Expansion has never really been, a part of my thinking in developing the business plan for Bidamanda. But what I have learned to embrace in life is to pay attention with the relationships that we have. And a friend of mine, Patrick Woodson, just moved back to town. He spent a couple of years with his wife, Aubrey, in Uganda as a Peace Corps volunteer, and they just got back to Raleigh. And he has a passion for brewing, especially the Belgian style. So we were just talking and reconnecting. Patrick spent some time in Laos after Peace Corps, and it was one of those moments when a lot of these stars align and we're like, let's do this together. And I came from a culture, in Laos, where beer is such a meaningful craft product. We almost approach beer the way that we approach wine in the States. Beer has such an emotional and psychological piece to the experience of drinking beer. In a lot of places in the world, it is about making something that is relevant to its place. We're talking about water and yeast and hops. So there's a lot of pieces aligned, and I think beer is one of those products that can nonchalantly create a community around it. I think Trophy does a phenomenal job in really challenging us and inspiring us about what a community could be just through enjoying great beer together. So I think that's what we are seeking to do, is how do we allow this product to be a shared common experience. There will be a strong food component along with the beer piece, especially with the Belgian style. Is a very great food pairing offering. So there will be an exciting food concept to be announced very soon to go along with it.
That's really neat. So I wonder. I mean, everything you do is with such thought and intention and care. Do you think about expanding and therefore then having sort of to divide your attention between the two? I mean, do you feel like that's something that will be? Does that concern you at all, or do you feel? How do you feel about that?
Definitely, definitely is on our mind, and we have been trying to spend a lot of time reflecting on that piece. Um, but what we have learned, it really is about relationship building, and Vitamano, for example, you know, that experience is as meaningful as it is for me, as it is to Dina, our server, as it is to Jordan. So I think it's really about how do we create a team that is passionately care about all these different products and experiences, so they themselves become ambassadors of that narrative. I think it's unrealistic to assume that that is all Van's uh, impact. I think a lot of the success we see from Vitamana is a collective effort from so many people and lives and narratives, and so I think as long as we continue to build communities around what we do, I don't ever foresee it to be a diluted experience.
Makes sense, man. Well, I'm sure that you guys will do it right and do it really well, and I'll be excited to kind of follow that. Well, let me ask you one more thing before I let you go. Is what has there been anything that over the last few years that has? I mean, you got great advice and counseling and mentoring from some wonderful people there. But is there anything that you had not thought of, or anything that sort of surprised you along the way that you hadn't planned for? And that may be anything from managing people to your own personal experiences with the restaurant business. I mean, is there anything that just you were surprised has happened or took place?
Let's see. I think one of the biggest surprises, I think, especially for me, because my professional and academic journey was on such a different path than what I'm doing now. When we decided to open the restaurant, I think I felt like I was turning my back onto that journey, that peace and conflict studies, that community development, the NGO world, and here I am opening a restaurant. So I think I developed a discomfort with that choice at that time, and I think I have been surprised by the simple fact that doesn't matter what discipline we find ourselves into, as long as we are true to our core beliefs and values, it's all relevant. What we are trying to do at the restaurant right now, for example, is to be ethically people sourcing. How do we see Vitamanda as a community building opportunity? How do we empower our staff in a way that that they will have the courage to take on that next chapter that's meaningful to their lives? So I think that was really surprising to me. The meaningful piece that this business concept yield for so many people, because at that time, in all disclosure and vulnerability, it really was a reflection. It was an extension of me not being able to find a job. So it was a business, a professional decision. So it has been rewarding to see that meanings can come out from any business journey, as long as we are true to the things that are important to us. And for us here at Vitamanda, it's definitely community building.
That's awesome. That's really cool, man. And you have just such a wonderful story, and I'm sure a lot of people are glad that none of those 300 people that you applied with accepted you and let you, So, I mean, because you really have developed something special there in Raleigh, and I just congratulate you and your sister and your team. And this has just been, I mean, there's so much. I wrote like 3 pages of notes just listening to you. Just really, this was awesome, man. So thank you for doing this. Thanks for taking the time, and thanks for sharing your story. I know a lot of people will benefit from this and learn from you and be better off for it. And we just appreciate the chance to have you on here, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We really appreciate it.
All right, Ben. Well, take care, and yeah, I will definitely, as I said, my dad is nearby, so and I'm in Raleigh, a few times a year, so I'll be there. I'll let you know when I'm coming. I can't wait.
Awesome. Well, you have my cell phone, so please definitely text me when you're coming in, so I know to come and say hi, even if not at a restaurant. And thank you for such a thoughtful questions.
Oh, absolutely, man. Thank you for sharing.
All right.
Folks, thanks for listening today. So, Ben, have a good one, man, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, take care.